All right, we're live. So, greetings, everyone, and welcome to Omicron Omega's Census 2020 Facebook Lunch Live. My name is Elise Washington, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Connection Committee Chairman for the Omicron Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa. Everyone, and welcome to Omicron. And we are here with representatives from various organizations in the Divine Nine, various Birmingham area chapters, and we are excited to get started today. We're going to be discussing all things Census 2020. And with that, I'm going to allow our guests to introduce themselves. We're going to start out with Mr. Allen.
Well, hello, I'm Darren Allen. I'm the acting dean of students at Lawson State Community College in Birmingham, and I'm vice president of the Omicron Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated here in Birmingham.
Hello, everybody. I'm Leah Holder-Wiggins. I am president of Omicron Omega chapter. We call ourselves the first Pearl. We're the first graduate chapter of the Southeastern region of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And I am the president. So I am very happy to be here. And I want to say to all of our panelists right now, thank you for joining us in this, which we think is a very important hot topic. This is very important to us, the census, and you all represent the Divine Nine, the historically Black sororities and fraternities. And we have a very big role in terms of sharing with our various members in the community about the importance of this. And so I want to thank you all for taking time in this new normal that we have for joining us. And thanks to our chairman, Elise Washington, on the Connection Committee of Omicron Omega, and our NPHC committee for collaborating and coming up with this great opportunity for us to share with the community. So thank you all.
Okay, now we'll have Mr. Blue.
How you doing? My name is Kamar Blue, representative of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, the Beta Mu New chapter, and I'm just happy to be here and be a part of it.
Thank you. Ms. Gaines.
Hello, I am Rochelle Holloway Gaines. I am the current second vice president for the Jefferson County Alumni chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I also work for Blue Cross Blue Shield as a healthcare analyst, so I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. And last but certainly not least, Ms. Cochran.
Yes, my name is Sheila A. Cochran. I am a member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated with 45 years of membership. I am the immediate past bossilus for Lambda Zeta Zeta chapter. We're chartered in November of 1981. We're located in Bessemer, Alabama. I'm so delighted to be with you all today.
Thank you so much. So before we get started, I did want to play a clip from Stacey Abrams' interview on live. I mean, she did a phenomenal job just discussing what the census is and the importance of it for our communities. So now that we have that, I'm going to get ready for that clip.
Huge issue that is getting buried by all of the noise in Washington right now. It's called the census, and people tend to tune out when they hear about it. But Stacey Abrams, please explain why it is imperative that people pay attention to this.
Thank you. So when I did not become governor, I went through the stages of grief very quickly. I added a new stage called plotting. And
That's age.
I started figuring out, so if I wasn't going to have that job, what work could I do? And the two issues that were top of mind for me, one is fighting voter suppression, because, you know, it was kind of top of mind. But the second was the census, because the census undergirds almost every political and civic decision we make. It allocates $1.5 trillion every year based solely on the numbers collected this year. The issue is that for the first time in recent memory, we have an administration that has tried to underfund the census. And because of that, we are going to have a difficult time counting the hardest to reach populations, rural communities, children, people of color, immigrants. And the reality is the census is not a count of citizens. It's a count of the people who live in America. If you're on a tourist visa, you're good. Everyone else gets counted. It people of color do not get counted at the rates they should, and that's been part of the challenge, we will lose $8 billion. Black communities will lose $3.3 billion. The Hispanic community will lose almost $4.4 billion. Asian Pacific Islanders will lose almost $600 million. Native Americans, Native Alaskans will lose almost $200 million every year. Those are dollars that don't go into your schools, don't go into your hospitals, don't go into your roads. Those are the dollars that make up your life. And the reality is the monies don't disappear. They just go to the people who get overcounted, which tend to be wealthier white communities. And so those who do well will do better, and those who do poorly will do worse. The solution is to answer the census. The census is taken every 10 years, but once they do it, it's done for the next 10 years. If you don't get counted, you do not count. But here are the 3 things I want people to know. Number 1, the census is going to be 80% online this year. That's going to be hard, especially for rural communities, regardless of your race, because between 24 and 40% of Americans do not have access to the internet. So one of the things we've done through my organization, Fair Count, is that we are putting hotspots in 150 locations in Georgia, in rural communities across the state, because we want people to participate. If you live in a community where it's hard to get the internet, start asking the people in your community to solve that problem. We have to solve it before the census happens. Number 2, people are afraid because of the citizenship question.
Yes.
That was one of the attempts that was actually pioneered by Thomas Hofeller, who is a conservative who really figured out how to weaponize the census and said that if you did not count non-citizens, then it would lead to a more white Republican, non-Hispanic population, which isn't who we are. Reality is, number 1, the citizenship question isn't on there. And if you want to make sure that the person knocking on your door isn't ICE, answer the census online, fill it out on paper, make the phone call. Because if you answer the census, when somebody knocks on your door, you know it's not the census, so you just don't answer the door. Number 3, people who are afraid that if you answer the census, they'll be able to find you because you have a warrant, because you owe somebody money, whatever. If you have a light bill or a cell phone, they know how to find you.
Already.
So answer the census so you can get your money and your political power, because that's how we decide congressional leaders, how we decide school board members, how we decide every level of political power. Answer the census 2020 and get your money and be counted.
Okay. Stacey Abrams, you got a new book coming out in June called Our Time Is Now, so be sure to be on the lookout for that. And
All right, you guys. Sorry. So now that we're back here to talk about the census here in Jefferson County, tell me just your take home. Why is the census so important for our communities? What makes it the creme de la creme about what's going on right now, despite COVID-19? We know about that. But tell me, why do you all think it's important for our communities to take the census?
Well, I think one of the reasons that was just originally mentioned was because we don't want to be undercounted. And it matters that it is not just one segment of people in the United States. And so it's very important that everybody gets counted, because we don't want all that money, which is trillions of dollars, to go to one particular segment.
Right. Anybody else want to weigh in?
Well, I think for me, I work for a nonprofit called the Dannon Project, which is a recidivism program. And so when you think of the last thing she said on how it dictates congressional seats and how many people are in a certain geographical area, the end of last year, they actually tried to take away a seat in Jefferson County based on numbers. And when you start doing stuff like that, the people have seen that the change in the texture of the judicial system in Jefferson County, which believes in alternative sentencing. When you don't have the numbers based off this, then you have judges removed. And when you have judges removed, you have and lack the ability to have people who can understand your culture and why things happen the way they happen. So to me, it just has a very long lasting and deeper effect, because everybody got a cousin that has somebody who has had to go through the judicial system. So even just in those areas, it's important for our voice to be heard. It's important for our numbers to actually count so that we are vital in that selection process.
I agree. I think also it's important for those of us who work in colleges and universities, and especially HBCUs, that we ensure that our students are counted, especially if our campuses are residential. The two largest HBCUs in the state, of course, in Huntsville and Montgomery, it is important that those students are counted for those communities because it also affects the congressional representation there. The Census 2020 allows for students to be counted where they usually reside. And in many cases, those students are spending 9 months of their year at that college campus. It's important that those students are counted there. It's important that they're counted at Talladega, they're counted at Stillman, Tuskegee, and even for us at Lawson State Community College in Birmingham. We do have a residential campus in Birmingham and a campus in Bessemer, and I'm required to count and report the students who live on campus with us.
I mean, just as Ms. Abrams just said, it influences the federal resources, the political representation, the power. We just need to be sure that we're counting.
Agreed. Agreed. You want to add anything, Ms. Cochran?
Yes, one of the things is that census results in influence in highway planning and construction, as well as grants for buses, subways, and other public transit systems. Now, if you think of the local schools, the census results in helping determine how money is allocated for Head Start programs and for the grants that they support teachers in special education. And I work in the education field, so therefore it is so important that we relate the census that when we give our results, that it helps us in those areas.
Oh, great. Thank you all so much for weighing in on that. Let's talk a little bit about logistics right now. So with taking the census, I think Stacy said that this is the first time people will be able to fill out census online, which makes it easy for some people, but not necessarily everyone. What are all the ways one can take the census? What can you do?
I mean, obviously filling it out online, but also mailing it back in.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's the opportunity had been available also that you could go to some of these places where the hot spots are available if you don't have internet access, or utilize it again, like you said, with your phone and those sort of things. So there's a lot of different options. If you got it in the mail, which I did probably twice, it gives you that code that you can go online and you can do that online, but you can mail it, like we stated, you can mail it back in.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody has a smartphone, and everybody, I think it just kind of, it helps being able to do both. Some of the older generation are used to handwriting, and the younger generation are used to some kind of technology. So I tried to go on last night to see if you can fill it out through your smartphone, and you can. It's a little bit more pages, being on the smartphone that you have to go through, but it's very simple. It's very easy to do. And I just think making it convenient for that, especially in a time where people are very anxious and anxiety is running high because of the coronavirus, that it makes it simpler to do it either way.
Along with having a short attention span. So it's really quick and easy, as you said.
It took me, it took me a few days to fill it out. I
wow.
actually did mine handwritten. But it was a lot of pages. But I did it in a couple of days because my attention span.
Yeah, it only took a few minutes to do it.
Short. Yeah. The online version was short, and also we're sending out from our college to our community, to some of our seniors, especially, that they can actually call in on the 1-844 number, and that's pretty simple, especially for some who don't even use smartphones. Some of our seniors can call in directly and someone will transcribe their answers.
Now let's go to that. What about counting those people who, like the elderly, who may not be as technologically savvy as the younger crowd? How can we assist them in filling out the census?
I think if we contact them, and many of us in our organizations are planning to mobilize to do so, there is a phone number, a toll-free number. It's 1-844-330-2020. And there are persons who are on the phone available to work with them to hear their answers and to record them and ensure that they are confirmed, and they will send them confirmation that they've been counted.
And we can also have locations where they can come and we can assist them in completing it. Sort of like what we do with voter registration and other things to make it a little easier.
This is over with, right? Because we are all experiencing some solitary confinement at the time. So not being able to go face to face and knock on that door because you're in fear of, maybe infecting them. If you don't even know if you are potentially been exposed, you don't want to go in person with someone who may be vulnerable to having this affect them negatively. So keeping that in mind, now that we're in this unprecedented state with the coronavirus, making sure that we pick up the phone and tell them they can call someone else, and you can fill it out via phone call if you're not comfortable using the computer.
Yeah, and I
Also-
think this event hopefully will bring it to top of mind that today is the day that we all try to convene and be reminded that this is Census Day. This will continue, but we want to take today, the audience that's here today, share with someone else and get on the phone, just like it's already been described by Mr. Allen, and start calling some of your close networks, the older people in your communities or in your network, and help them and remind them. So hopefully we'll utilize the technology for those who are tech savvy, and then we'll share it with the others who may not be as tech or may not have been reminded that this is very important to do today.
Just to add to that, there are several ways that to connect to the U.S. Census Bureau, as well as the language support. The Census Bureau offers resources in English and 50 other languages to ensure that everyone can respond to the 2020 census. So that should be helpful.
I see one thing that's very that needs to be known. It ensures funding for schools, and with the place that Birmingham schools, Birmingham schools and some of the cities surrounding Birmingham scored, it's critical that we have funding for schools because we're already lacking in funding, and to lose any more funding will result in uneducated kids or kids not fully educated to be competitive in today's society. And it also, me being a former firefighter, it helps with hospitals and the fire departments. You don't know how valuable they are until you actually need them. So that's important. Last but definitely not least, it deals with how many people in the House of Representatives. And the House is what's keeping us floating right now. If we didn't have the House, it would just be I can't even imagine how society would be. And I'm sure that they are banking on us losing House seats in areas that are densely populated with people of color and immigrants, so that when the voting time comes back around, that they maybe can control the Senate and the House, which would result in doing whatever they wanted to do. So it's like a domino effect. You don't do it, you don't fill it out, it's going to affect in ways, and it's just going to keep on affecting us, and we'll take the brunt of our problems.
Yeah, some of those minority communities, they use the bus. And so that funding affects the transportation.
That's true.
And one thing that I think that needs to be pointed out about this is that it's not just for citizens, it's for every person that's in the United States. So whether you are an actual citizen or not, it's important to know who is in this country so that we will make available in our free country the things that all of us need to use, some of the things that have already been described.
And I think that is such an important point, because even some of our people don't understand why that is, and not everyone agrees. But the fact is, no matter what a person's citizenship status is, someone has to walk on a road, drive on a road, someone has to use a hospital. And without having those things, it does not matter what your citizenship is. Those persons are still consuming And that's the point of the census. If you want to make sure that you're putting the resources in the places where they're being consumed the most. And certainly our brother made a great point about the House of Representatives. And as we've seen with this political climate, if one doesn't see how important this is, I don't know what universe they've lived in. It is important to note that it takes both of those houses in order to get a bill passed, in order to have it signed into law. And in many cases, that has been the thing that has been the firewall for minority and disparate represented communities, is having the House of Representatives to represent the people and the population of the people, the populace itself. And so it is so important that we take this opportunity to ensure that everyone, our Hispanic friends, our friends who are from other countries who are working with us every day, those who work undercover, we need to ensure that they know they too can be counted and should be counted.
Was saying that they should also know that if they don't receive an invitation to respond from the Census Bureau, they may respond online or do the contact us page to call or phone in line. That way they'll be able to report.
Yes.
Agreed. Now, we kind of touched on this a little bit about reaching those individuals who may be a little bit more difficult to reach. Do you all know what particular populations those are? Like, who are some hard to reach or hard to count individuals that we know specifically where to go when we can?
Those rural areas are primary.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also a bivocational pastor, and I pastor in Walker County, but I've had an opportunity to minister in a lot of places around the state. And again, some of those persons aren't always included. We certainly see that now with all of the schools in Alabama moving to a virtual learning environment. Many of those persons are not able to access some of the technologies we are. And so it's so important to point out to them the importance of using using mail and using their telephones to get things done, and not just the smartphones, because in many areas they have a smartphone, but they still don't have accessibility to reach the internet. And so some of those persons still need to know they can call in. And I think that is so important. All of us have cousins from somewhere in the Black Belt. All of us know of some people in some of those rural areas. And it's important to use those phone lines to get in touch with them, to remind them that they too need to be counted, and they can be counted despite the lack of technology.
Agreed. And also our homeless population, if they are still persons in our communities, we still need to reach out to them and make sure that they're counted, that we receive the credit for them being here so that they can get the resources that are needed for them.
Yes.
Ensuring that those populations are children, all children who are counted. It's going to be a little bit more difficult now that they are not in an actual physical location for school, but keeping that in mind as well. So thank you all. Thank you.
And also, I just wanted to point out, sometimes we have people that are transient, so to speak. They're not really living with us for a while. And in our families, we have people that do that for a while. They'll stay with us, they'll stay with someone else. But be mindful that those individuals need to be counted as well. So, if we can, they're not getting the information in the mail. So they need to be contacted kind of individually.
Right.
The one point that you can think of using or as a rule, that if you're not sure which household to count them in, you can always just think, where are they going to be on April 1st? And wherever they are on April 1st, they can be counted in that particular household. But everyone should be counted using that rule if they can't determine otherwise.
Agree. All right. Any final thoughts on this, our day of the Lord, Census Day 2020? Give us some final thoughts about either something you're doing, your organization is doing to ensure that we all are.
My organization is, some of them are participating in being census takers. And I think that is a wonderful job. Some have done it on several, so they are familiar with how to take the census. I just not sure how they're going to handle that now that we're going through the crisis, but I am pretty sure that they'll work out something that's going to work for everyone, and we still be able to give our report in the census accurately enough to get that count.
I think also that we go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, one of the things that I think that we have done, even in our chapter, is the outvote, which kind of gives us an opportunity to send out the group text with that organization to remind people to take the census and to do the voting. So I think that's a very good tool to utilize. So our connection chairman, hats off to you for suggesting that for our chapter, but that has been a good tool to utilize.
Yes.
Prior to this, we were working with a representative from the Census Bureau, going into the schools, also reaching those parents of those students, working with the high schools, trying to get some of those older kids to see the importance, along with voting, getting voting registrations done at the same time. So that's been very helpful.
I think also we just need to ensure that we use social media just as we're doing now. So many things can begin to trend just based on your posting it with your own social network, whether it's Instagram, here on Facebook or Twitter. It's important that we continue to bombard people with the message, not just this week. It has to be continuous. There's so much power in social media. There are people who read our posts and our pages whom we'll never meet. Some of those persons who aren't our friends, but they're friends of friends. And so we have to leverage this technology to our advantage. And by messaging, if you have a profile picture, find a way to plug it. We're doing so in my organization, Omicron Lambda. Of course, we're the oldest oldest graduate chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha in the state of Alabama. And we take that very seriously. We take the charge to lead, not just our brothers, but the community, to make sure that if we're going to promote everything else and everything that's being sold by others, we should certainly promote a message that will help all of us.
Well, I think in closing, that all of us or everyone who looks or is looking or will look at the videos should become an ambassador for the Census Bureau, just by asking one person that you know, or putting it in your group meet text, or just something like Brother Allen said, or even just, you know, it's a fad when it's voting season, when people post the sticker, I voted. So I think we can do that likewise with the Census Bureau, saying, hey, have you completed your census questionnaire for 2020, and make it, you know, because people are sitting at home looking for stuff to do, and this is something that they can do to pass their time. So
That's a great point.
Agreed. Well, thank you all again for joining us. I know it was, you know, taking time out of your day. Some of you may be working from home, being a part-time teacher, lunch lady and principal as well. So I do appreciate you. But in closing, I did want to just acknowledge that our chapter wants to thank all of our panelists, all of these wonderful representatives in the Divine Nine. And we are going to be giving you all e-gift cards, $25 e-gift cards to Yo Mamas, which is a locally Black-owned restaurant who is still doing pickup so that you all can support them during this dire time.
Fantastic.
Emphasizes target of Alpha Kappa Alpha. We do economic legacy and the Black Dollar 365. So just support them when you can, support other locally owned small Black businesses. We do want them to know that we care, and we want the best. So thank you all again for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Well, thank you for hosting.
Thank you for the invite. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Have a great one.